Alright, I'm back. It seemed like the video was a little too long for the recording, so it told me to go ahead and just start a whole nother video. So, because the file was getting too large, so I'm gonna go ahead and start off with this one right here. Now, I went through the recent analysis and then I went through the advanced analysis. You see, you get with CRI genetics ancestry, you get the recent, you get the advanced, you get the advanced timeline for free. You got the haplogroups. You got the maternal haplo. You get the paternal haplo, and then you also get what is called famous people. But then that it doesn't just stop right there, because with it you also get what is called traits. As you can see, you get salt taste sensitivity, pain. What did I say? Pain threshold, motion sickness, sweet tooth. Something that they call photic sneeze. Photic sneeze, then you get misophenia. That's new. Stress reactivity, freckles. As you see, I don't have freckles. And on here, when you read for freckles, it say no freckles. So they got it right. Unlikely to have red hair. He said, view report, red hair. Unlikely to have red hair. I don't have red hair. Floral fragrance detection. High floral fragrance detection. Thick hair. Unlikely to have thick hair. Brown or blue eyes. Very likely to have brown eyes. Ooh. They got it right on that. Mosquito bite size. Normally sized mosquito bites. Oh, and while I went in there, while it was down, I went on here to grab me something to eat. I'm a little upset because I thought the place closed at 8 o'clock, but it closed at 6, and I'm like, so I had to pick out of the snack box for my dinner. You know what I'm saying? So it just turned out to be a couple of chicken legs and a couple of little thin taquitos, whatever you call them things is. That's dinner for me. Then they got the metabolism, amylase levels. Then they got the unsaturated fats. They got emotional eating, high likelihood for emotional eating. What up? Likely increased levels for the amylase levels, unsaturated fat. Normal benefits from unsaturated fat intake. Adiponectin levels. Likely to have normal adiponectin levels. Fat storage. Overall BMI. Predisposed to higher BMI. Fat diet and weight loss. Long-term weight control. Greater difficulty maintaining weight. You didn't have to tell me all. You didn't have to tell me. Allergies. These are the things that people thought was a joke when I told them all them years ago when I was a teenager. I went and had an allergenist. I think they call them allergens. But I had an allergenist run a test on me. Well, my mother had to run it on me, and sure enough, I had allergies. I had them for a long time and didn't know it. And people like playing with your allergies. You tell them you're allergic to dogs, they want to see you blow up or get hives. See what it does to you. Do you sneeze? That's not something that you experiment with. Just like people who got peanut allergies, they get fed something that got peanuts in it, and then you wonder why you seeing reports talking about this person just died of a peanut allergy, blew up like a house. You got mold allergy, histamine intolerance, gluten sensitivity, cat allergy, grass allergy, egg allergy, dog allergy. Cat allergy, moderate likelihood for cat allergy. Peanut allergy, some allergic sensitivity to peanuts. That was an eye opener because do you know how much I love peanuts? Cashews, pistachios, almonds, pecan. You know how much I love that stuff? Come to find out I got a slight allergy to peanuts. I'm just glad I don't blow up like some of the other people, but I do have an allergy, and so therefore what the allergenist told me is not all people have allergies that or allergic reactions that are shown outward. And see, that's what people are looking for. See if you have anything that shows. A lot of that stuff people be suffering on the inside and don't know. A lot of people walking around with allergies and don't know. This stuff is internal. Sunflower pollen allergy, birch allergy, high sensitivity to birch pollen. I didn't know that. Hay fever, herbaceous plant allergy, high likelihood of experiencing herbaceous allergies. Dust mite allergies. I'm allergic to cats, dogs, and dust mites. That was all I thought. Come to find out, I'm allergic to a lot more shit. Excuse my language. A lot more stuff. And when I go into these places, people be walking in there with their dogs like they not pets but human beings. That's a doggone pet. It's not really supposed to even be in the store. You know? Try to treat it like it's a child. It's not a child, it's a pet. I don't care how much you love it, how much you watch it grow up from a little itty bitty puppy. That son gun almost come up to my waist. Pit bull. Come on. I don't care how trained that thing is. Pit bulls, bull mastiffs, Rottweilers, regardless of how trained they are, they have a tendency to turn on even their owners. So I don't care. I Don't get me wrong. I love dogs. I love cats. I used to play with them all the time when I was little. I had no idea I was allergic to them because I didn't show external. I'm thinking sneezing, eyes turning red, itching, scratching. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And I probably, from what I was seeing with bee allergies, you know what I'm saying? People with bee allergies, they get bit and they blow up like a house. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about allergies. Come to find out that stuff be internal too. Your internal organs is going bad. It's screwing up, which could explain it. You know what? That should remind me. That could explain a few things too. Hmm. But anyways, these are you get nutrition. You know, vitamin E is absorption, vitamin B absorption, calcium levels, vitamin A, vitamin B12, lactose digestion, omega 3 absorption, vitamin D absorption, choline deficiency, magnesium deficiency, folic acid deficiency, low iron status, vitamin C absorption. I got a high vitamin C absorption. But I want to go back. I just wanted to tell you all the things that you get literally get when you order from CRI Genetics. It's just like some of the things that you get. You would, I think it's with 23andMe, but you got to pay extra. CRI gives it to you. There's certain things you have to pay for, but you know what I'm saying. CRI, but a lot of the stuff CRI gives it to you as part of the package. I literally ordered the whole complete package. Not to brag or show off or anything, because some people got it in their mind they want to try to teach me a lesson if I so-called brag or I can't talk about myself. This video to them is probably bragging. I can't talk about myself. You got to know all the information about me and not me. Come on. Now, I showed you let me see, go to the maternal haplogroup. This is the end of the video. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting down to that, and I got some other stuff I want to talk to once I get finished with this. I showed you already maternal haplo. L1C. Same thing as GTL DNA showed me. CRI genetics showed me the exact same thing. See, what they didn't tell you about 23andMe, you don't hear about CRI genetics. CRI genetics tell you that for the past 3 years, they've been voted the #1 genetic lab. The #1. They tell you themselves. Not 23andMe, not Ancestry.com, not African Ancestry. CRI genetics. For the past 3 years. Not even GTL DNA, but GTL DNA gave me a whole lot of information that a lot of other companies did, including CRI genetics. But CRI genetics was voted #1. They're second. They're not second to none. They're second to none. Okay, get that in your head. They're second to nobody. They're #1. And you know what it feels like when you win the #1 spot. Everybody else shooting for you. But anyways, to say a haplogroup is a collection of common inherited genes that trace male or female ancestors lines back to an original parent. I already read through that to you via GTL DNA, and here it is. CRI genetics is telling me the exact same information. You don't really see CRI genetics represented on YouTube. It's mainly 23andMe Ancestry.com and African Ancestry. Unlike regular DNA, mitochondrial DNA exists outside the nucleus of your cells. It's only passed down by mothers and daughters and sons. Haplogroup L1C represents a common ancestor that ties you directly to ancestral mitochondrial E. They give you the little play button to push. I'm going to push it for you. Okay, it's not gonna go automatically. It skips back and forth, but you get it. It's not like how Ancestry DNA, Ancestry.com, where it shows one spot, then it flips around to another. It's playing a little African music, and it flips to the other one, and then it flips around to this. It doesn't do that. It does it, but you got to keep pushing the button to do that. It's not automatic, and I'm not about to spend more time doing this, going through this. This video is already long as is. Because I had a lot of information to give to you in case you wanted it. A lot of people might not even want to watch it because they'll say, "Hey, that's too long." But you can actually learn from it. You can actually learn from it. And by learning from it, how can somebody call you a dummy? You got it directly from the geneticist, which I got it directly. You got it from me, and I got it from the geneticists. The geneticists are the ones who got the doctorate degrees, and they're more educated than the people that's calling you a dummy. Think on that one. Way more educated. I said the ancestors for haplogroup L1 have been determined to originate us. Haplogroups thought to have formed between 110,000 to 170,000 years ago. I think we went through all of that with GTL DNA, but you know, I got the haplogroup L1, L1C, and then it goes to the next one, L1C, which is the second one. Haplogroup L1C is one of the two branches descended from L1, a direct descendant of mitochondrial Eve. It appeared between 110,000 and 170,000 years ago in Africa. Today, haplogroup L1C reaches its highest frequencies in West and Central Africa, especially among the Mbinga Pygmy people. Pygmy! They told me I'm from a pygmy. I'm from Pygmy people. You know, pygmies, them little small people. Or they call them, they had dwarfism. Dwarves. Pygmies. All right, go to paternal. I showed you the E1B1A, and I showed you all. I told you about all of that other good stuff. I showed you on the map. Remember I had the map out? It's basically just so you won't hear me telling you. It's exactly what it said. Paternal haplo. You belong to haplogroup E1B1A. E1B1A. Exact same thing that GTL DNA told me too. So how much wrong can you don't have just one, you got two opinions. But I'm gonna go for a third one. And it's gonna cost me a little, you know what I'm saying? It's just take see this is just information that people don't they say, all right, you learned about yourself. Now go ahead and do look, stop. This is my life. Everything I'm learning, talking about right here, this is me. I can't some of you too, to a certain extent, but on just like on the map, it's just like on this one right here, from GTL DNA to also CRI genetics, it's all for me. Not my brothers, not my sisters, not my aunts, uncles, or anybody else. Me. It's specifically to me. Um. So now let's go back here. Here's the timeline. I'm about to show you the timeline now. Our advanced ancestry timeline fully analyzes your entire DNA sequence to determine not only your ancestral history, but its complete timeline as well. The further back we examine, the more centralized we find our ancestral lines to be. The unlikeliness of cultural crossbreeding was large in part due to pre-evolved geological landscapes and obstacles. Environmental obstacles such as ice ages and glacial periods, and technological obstacles such as the overall inability to travel. When we do find peculiarities among your ancestry, these rarities tend to be more interesting than when represented among ancient versus recent civilizations. These peculiarities offer us a measurable timeline by which we can identify when and where odd mixtures, not admixtures, but odd mixtures, and statistically outlier types of populations entered your family history. Though many of these ancestries may seem wildly foreign to you, know that our team only denotes ancestries we believe you share at an 80% confidence level or better to be featured on your timeline. This feature may help you learn more about your genealogy as you can piece together the migrations that led to the results in your advanced ancestry report. See that at the top? It says Shannon Clements. It doesn't say none of my brother's names. It doesn't say none of my sister's names. It doesn't say my father's name. It doesn't say my mama's name. It doesn't say my aunts or uncles. It's specifically for, or not even my cousins. It's specifically for me. Now this is the first. It said Isan in Nigeria, 1870 AD to 1930 AD. Approximate year. Somewhere between there on chromosome 3, S&P matches, you got 21,060 matches. S&P matches, what is that? S&P, single nucleotide polymorphism, are essentially genetic markers that scientists use to locate the part of the genome within your DNA specifically responsible or tied to specific human traits. This says 4 generations back. African Caribbean, 5 generations back. 5 generations back. Luya in Kenya, 5 generations back. (1845 to 1905). Yoruba in Nigeria, 5 generations back. Isan in Nigeria, 5 generations back. Yoruba in Nigeria, 6 generations back. 99, and you see where it say accuracy? 99% sure. 99%. African Caribbean, 7 generations back. Luya in Kenya, 8 generations back. Yoruba in Nigeria, 8 generations back. Isan in Nigeria, 8 generations back. Oh, this is where the Northern European comes in. Northern European, 8 generations back. Let's see, what's the Northern European again? Is that England? Britain, right? Places like Dutch, Dutchland or Hollands or whatever you want to call it. Great Britain. It showed it on my DNA. Remember, not just with the CRI genetics, but also on my DNA map, which was what you call it. But only on my DNA map, it was all in red. But here it is. Oh, it moved on me. Now, here it is. 8 generations back. We identified one of your ancestors was Northern European and lived around the year 1800 AD as we analyze your DNA. Then you got Luya in Kenya, 9 generations back. Yoruba in Nigeria, 9 generations back. Isan in Nigeria, 9 generations back. Luya in Kenya, 10 generations back. I go way back with the Luya people. I keep telling you, I go a long ways back with the Kenyan people, the people in Kenya. But you know what they said? The lawyer was saying, even though the geneticist was trying to say, no, you are from this place. The lawyer people told you, no, we're from ancient Egypt. Here it is, 10 generations back. Iberian. That's the Spanish people. You know the conquistadors, the ones who conquered South America and Mexico, killed off damn near all, excuse me, almost all of the male Mexicans, and made it with the women, and that's the reason why they went from Mayan dark to Aztec light and lighter. You know, I'm just saying. A lot of Mexicans get upset when I tell them I'm part you. They look at me and look me up and down and keep on walking. But it's something else about that too, and I found out about it through a little research. I'm gonna get into all that in the video too. They do not, for some odd reason, it's like they don't like being related to black people. There's a disconnect there somewhere because I'm gonna take you a lot further back, and then I even told you I'm part of the haplogroup E1B1A, which is where from my line all the rest of the others came from. no matter what race you are. You came from the E1B1A and formed your own later, literally. Let's see, what was that again? Iberian 10 generations back. Yoruba in Nigeria 10 generations back. Isan in Nigeria 10 generations back. Northwest European 10 generations back. Yoruba in Nigeria 11 generations back. Isan in Nigeria 11 generations back. Isan in Nigeria 12 generations back. African Caribbean 12 generations back. That's back in the 1800s. No, excuse me. 12 generations back. That's that's between 1670 and 1730. That's how long they lived or whatever. But it's on chromosome 15. 1700. That's the 1700s. Excuse me. Luya in Kenya. Luya. 12 generations back. Now this is direct line. Let's get it right. Advanced timeline is this going a direct line as the male, it says the direct line. This would have to be the Y generation. Y. Luya in Kenya, 12 generations back, 1600s. Northwestern European, 12 generations back, 1600s. When did the slave trade start again? Yoruba in Nigeria, 12 generations back. Northwestern European, 13 generations back. African Caribbean, 13 generations back. Luya in Kenya, 13 generations back. Isan in Nigeria, 13 generations back. Northern European, 13 generations back. Northwestern European, 14 generations back. Luya in Kenya. I go a long way back with Luya in Kenya, 14 generations back. Yoruba in Nigeria, 14 generations back. Isan in Nigeria, 14 generations back. Isan in Nigeria, 15 generations back. I'm about to go through the whole line. Luya in Kenya, 15 generations back. Let's see, that was 1625. Yoruba in Nigeria, 15 generations back. Luya in Kenya, 16 generations back. Yoruba in Nigeria, 16 generations back. This is 1600s, early 1600s. Scratch my head on this one. This is a trip. Because I already went over it, and I knew it. But if there's any Japanese watching this, who in 1575 was part of my ancestry? How did you blip over there in Africa? Way back in 1575 AD. That's a Japanese all day long. Oh shoot, it went all the way. That's a Japanese all day long. That's direct lineage. Direct lineage. Not something off of them, direct lineage. 17 generations back. Isan in Nigeria, 17 generations back. Isan in Nigeria, 18 generations back. Yoruba in Nigeria, 19 generations back. Yoruba in Nigeria, 20 generations back. Isa, and then ultimately is Isan in Nigeria, 70 generations back. Those who fled, and they fought like hell for their freedom. That's amazing. You Japanese is something else, because y'all was doing something that nobody else knew about, and it was keeping and holding on to the information. They didn't want to tell nobody. Ain't that something? And you know the Japanese conquered China for a time. But what they didn't also tell you about China is China used to be ruled by a black emperor too. Long time ago. I think it was a Tang dynasty. Now this is where I coming out of this information right here. Okay. I just went through the whole timeline. Direct ancestry. And now we about to go into the famous people. Famous people sharing your mitochondrial DNA haplogroup, mother's lineage. A haplogroup is a group of people who share a collection of inherited genes that trace maternal, mitochondrial, and paternal Y-DNA ancestry lines back to a single common ancestor. Your maternal haplogroup is based on your mitochondrial DNA or mitochondrial DNA. It has the abbreviation for it, then it has mitochondrial DNA, which consists of the DNA you inherited from your mother. We use mitochondrial DNA haplogroups to trace our lineage through all our maternal line ancestors. Thus, we can trace your mother, your mother's mother, and beyond all the way back to mitochondrial Eve. Both males and females inherit mitochondrial DNA. Therefore, everyone inherits their mother's haplogroup placement. It is common to share a haplogroup with other individuals, and sometimes there may be some familiar faces and names in yours. Based on the analysis of your mitochondrial DNA, we discovered that several noteworthy individuals belong to your haplogroup, mitochondrial wise. These individuals include you know who that man is. Is there any type of resemblance? You know who that man is. That's Nelson Mandela. The next one in line. You know who this woman is right here too. She served with under President Bush, Condoleezza Rice. I'm not even. I'm not saying nothing right now. I'm not saying nothing right now. Thanks a lot, Cedric, the entertainer, for putting the thoughts in my mind. I don't know the guy. Don't get me wrong. I don't know the man for nothing. You know, so nothing in the world. I don't know the man. It's just some things that he was saying a long time ago before I found this out. Yeah. Then we have this guy right here, Malcolm Gladwell. He's an author just like me. Only thing, let me, only thing is he has graced the New York Times bestsellers list, but I haven't. I tried, but sorry, I couldn't live up to his. I couldn't live up to his credibility. You know, he's alive somewhere over in Canada somewhere. But I'm not gonna go to into any more much more. I'm not gonna bug the man. Cause then you got Leonard Dambo. And who he is one of the few well-educated Bocayo who is a qualified journalist and head of an NGO in Libreville. I have no idea what Libreville is, but it got to be in Africa. Yep. Then you got famous people sharing your Y-DNA haplogroup, father's lineage. And male Y-DNA ancestry lines back to an original parent. Your Y-DNA exists outside the nucleus of your cells and is only passed down by fathers to sons. We use these haplogroups to trace our common ancestors all the way back to mitochondrial Adam. Why? Based on the analysis of your Y-DNA. So, in other words, your Y-DNA is direct lineage. It's about as direct as you can get. But let's get up here and say a haplogroup is a group of people who share a collection of inherited genes. Inherited genes, a collection of inherited genes that trace maternal and paternal Y DNA ancestry lines back to a single common ancestor. See, as with, see, this is why they tell you they offer to the men both the X and the Y. They tell you the X is a roundabout way. It gives you your ancestry, but it gives it to you in a roundabout way. But your Y DNA, your Y DNA is a direct line. But this is this is a group of people that share. So that means somewhere along that line we connect. Somewhere along the line, we connect. So this first one, get it right. Somewhere along that line, is showing that Ramses Van Zandt County, Texas, Willow Sermon's 14-year-old white female check local media. That's good. Go. Right in the middle of my video. But it tells you right there. Ramesses the Third. Somewhere along the lines, I'm connected to not just ancient Egyptians, but to the Pharaoh himself. Family. And I'm going to go down through there once I get finished with this. Then on here again, it shows it just didn't put his picture on there, but it shows Nelson Mandela again. So not only on my mother's side, but on my father's side as well. Nelson Mandela is my kin. Then we have this guy right here. Sir David Attenborough. Sir. Hold on, I'm about to Sir David Attenborough, English broadcaster and naturalist at the BBC, explaining the Tree of Life, how the Attenboroughs. How the Attenboroughs. Wow. What do you mean, sir? Of course, that's just something that you say for men. You say sir, or it denotes somebody of what you call it, but you know it also denotes not just like once with Ramesses the Third, where you show royalty, but you also show another second royal person as well. Sir David Attenborough. You get to put sir before your name once you're basically a knighted. That's good. Knighted, you got royalty. Sir Attenborough also almost looked like this next guy that's on the list. I'm gonna put this so you can you see that one, and then you see this person. You see that one, then you see this person. I'm gonna put it all the way down there so you can see exactly who that is. 30th President of the United States, Lyndon B. Johnson, or Lyndon Strong Johnson. I'm related to a president of the United States. There's some other stuff I'm gonna go down through there too. I told you a long time ago, back when I began this video, I'd say I'm gonna go there with you, and I'm gonna explain a few things. And I said it periodically through all these videos, throughout the video. I'm gonna break this down. Then you got this guy here, an Italian guy. Remember I told you, showed you Italy, I had Italian in me. I'm like 26.8%. That's more than a quarter. Italian. Caravaggio. The remains of the great Italian Baroque painter Caravaggio were excavated to confirm the circumstances of his mysterious death at the age of 38. And then we got this other person, Garibaldo Giuseppe, the general, politician, and nationalist who played a large role in the history of Italy. This one right here was a serious shock, especially knowing the history that he has with the Egyptians, where they said that he was so upset that he couldn't conquer Ethiopia because the queen riding on a team of elephants led her army to defeat him and chase him back out of Ethiopia. So he went back into Egypt, so upset, looking at the Great Sphinx, pointed a cannon at it, aimed, and shot the nose off the cannon, off the Great Sphinx. Y'all know who that is. Napoleon. Napoleon Bonaparte. Somehow we're kin. That's the third person I just showed that was royal. And it kind of makes you think, what's going on here? And a general. And you got the Wright brothers. Then you got William Harvey. Who is the first person to describe completely and in detail the systemic circulation and properties of blood being pumped to the body by the heart. This is amazing. Y'all know who this man is. You know exactly who this man is. Albert Einstein. Somehow I'm kin to Albert Einstein. Remember I showed you that I'm part German? Then you got this guy right here, Steven Pinker. Canadian experimental psychologist. I'm trying to read it backwards now. Gosh. Cognitive scientist, linguist, and popular science author. He is Johnstone Family Professor in the Department of Psychology at Harvard University. This guy right here owns castles and stuff like that. I don't know if he's royal or whatever, but everybody around here knows exactly who he is. Like I said, even though it's showing up on here, I'm not gonna go bothering the people about anything. Y'all know who this man is right here. Nicolas Cage. Can you believe that? The American actor. Somehow, I'm kin to him. I'm not going to go bothering the guy. I'm not going to bother none of them. Then you got this guy right here. Larry Page. As of November 2016, Google co-founder Larry Page was the 12th richest person in the world. The 12th richest? That's some serious wealth. I'm gonna go bump him and say, hey man, can I borrow $5? No, I'm not gonna buy. I'm not gonna bother none of them. Even though I got kinship to them, but that don't mean nothing to certain people, you know. I'm not gonna bug them at all. And then this is the last person on the line. It's a lot of people through my father's side. Wow. This guy right here, Zinedine Zidane. He's the French soccer player of Algerian origin. Zinedine Zidane, nicknamed Zizou. He played as an attacking midfielder for the France national team and won the 1998 FIFA World Cup, scoring twice in the final, and UEFA Euro 2000, where he was named player of the tournament. Alrighty. Like I said, I'm not gonna bug none of them. My dinner's getting cold. I also got me a bag of Cheetos. Grandma's cookie. I got a couple of fried chicken legs. And a couple of these little taquitos. This is what I call dinner. Since I missed out on the actual restaurant, they closed on me early. I'm thinking about just, well, it's too late now. I done bought this, so I'm gonna eat this as is. This is right here for a hot second. I'll take it all down. Now remember, I was telling you. Smart water. Just because you drink smart water doesn't mean that you're smart. I can move this back now. Now, remember I was telling you, there's some things that I was going to talk about, and the reasonings behind me calling myself an ancient Egyptian. Now they say Ramesses the Third, his ancestral lines goes back to the Eastern Africa. But where I think they got it wrong at is in how his ancestry how his genes got there. Now I just happened to see it like a couple of months ago. I found out that they took the first 19 dynasties of ancient Egypt and said they were European. But yet I just showed you in the haplogroups, E1B1A is the line where where they went through from Africa off into all of these other countries and started their genetic lines, and then you know what I'm saying, then they started looking back. My line. But outside of that, remember, ancient Egypt used to rule the entire earth. They used to rule the entire earth. The whole northern tip of Africa used to be ancient Egypt before there was a Liberia or Tunisia or Morocco. Morocco actually used to be, I want to say barren land. It wasn't barren land. It was abandoned land. Nobody lived there. And the ancient Egyptians allowed for some of them Arabs out of the Middle East to move over there and establish a little trade post there in Africa. And they later called it Morocco. And as time goes on, Persia, which is the Iranians, which is all Islamic, is all in the Middle East. Is all them Arabs. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just Persia, but it was several others that conquered ancient Egypt as well, on top of the Romans and all that. But you got to remember, before any of them great Greek philosophers became great, they first used to study in ancient Egypt. They traveled to ancient Egypt to learn out of what they call the ancient Egyptian mystery schools. It was a mystery because there was information in there that they didn't teach just any old body. And then you had Alexandria, was the greatest library on earth. It held all the information, just like today, the greatest library would be over there in Rome, hidden in the catacombs of the Pope. They got all that stuff over there now. Airtight. Special type of air pumped through there to make sure the manuscripts last and all the other good stuff, and don't just eat away and rot out and all the other good stuff. That originally was Alexandria. Alexandria was in ancient Egypt. They held the world's knowledge. And when the Romans came along, they burnt Alexandria down to the ground. They burnt the library. So there's really no telling exactly what the ancient Egyptians really knew outside of what they put in those hieroglyphs. Why? Because the Romans burnt all that knowledge up because they didn't value knowledge. Back then, the ancient Egyptians, you could go back to the first dynasty and find wooden carvings of the pharaohs and all the other stuff. They were black. As a matter of fact, I resemble some of them. I wouldn't say all of them, but I resemble some of them as far back as the first dynasty. Even the Sphinx, which they wrongly carbon dated because they found out that it shows water erosion marks on this great Sphinx, and they saying that is older than what it originally was said. Older. So now I'm looking at that for what it is, and it's telling me that I am actually kin to Ramesses the Third. Esan people, Luya people. The Luya, I read it, and they said that the anthropologists are trying to tell the Luya people that they're from one region, but the Luya people said, "Oh, no, no, no. We were ancient Egyptians." And when ancient Egypt was conquered the first time, I don't know if it was the Franks. I know it wasn't the Persians. The Persians came later. All those who didn't want to stay there and live in captivity, what did they do? They fled. If ancient Egypt is at the top, where did they flee to? They fled south, thus mixing with the people in those areas, and just kept traveling further and further south. I watch a lot of these videos of these Sudanese people. Some of them are my kin. They done split up Sudan and try to call it North and South Sudan. They seem more to be related to the Arabs that have been controlling North Africa for over 1,500 years. It's been so long, they've been controlled for so long by them Arabs that they desire to be those in the control instead of desiring to be who they are. They don't know it, and they totally forgot it. Because I'll tell you right now, just after 400 years of African Americans going through that slave trade over there, coming to here to the United States of America, it's only been 100 years since we found out that what Africa was. We totally forgot Africa, didn't pass it down. It's been less than 100 years since we started traveling back over there to Africa to even establish some sort of communications. Then the Africans started coming over here to the United States. They come over here looking down their nose at us, calling us spoiled and all these other things. But yeah, you in a country where we fought, bled, and died to get the rights that you come in here to enjoy. Y'all didn't do that for us. We did that for you. And a lot of those rights that other groups are enjoying here in the United States, they got it because of black people living, fighting, bleeding, and dying so you can enjoy freedom. And it's the truth. I'm not trying to get racist or anything like that, but I deal with a lot of racism now that I'm out here on this road. But like I said, it goes back further than just the 400 years of the transatlantic slave trade, of where they're trying to, taking slaves out of Africa, bringing them over this way to America, to the Americas, and then from Americas trading those slaves for goods, molasses and all the other good stuff, and then taking all through the molasses and all this other stuff. And then they took that molasses and everything and traded it for spices and traded it for gold over in Europe. And so I know with the history of the United States of America, the Great Britons used to run a big part of the United States, and they wanted to run it all. But the Americans fought and chased all the Britons up out of here. They said, don't leave not one of them back behind. All of you getting the heck out of America. And that was right before the transatlantic slave trade began. Then you got the Civil War and all that other stuff too. That came later, years later. So my thing was, how did I get British blood in me? And I had to figure it out. When Egypt ruled the world. there's a lot more to it than you thought. This is why I said once you start learning history, because you see, they fled south, started mixing with the Aboriginal people in southern Africa, even though they was already mixing with them anyway. Because when Egypt ruled it, of course they was dipping in all through Africa. Ramesses the third, I think they say he had over 30 kids, 10 wives or something. I gotta look it up. But he had a lot of wives. He had a harem of women, concubines. Not just wives. He had a lot of wives, but he had a lot of concubines too. He was getting his groove on left and right. They said that he was one of the last great pharaohs. And when he died, they slit his throat. Shoved a medallion down his throat. Because his wife, one of his wives, wanted to rule it all. And so with the way the neck is, anybody can just cut the throat. But they said the cut was so deep that it cut into his spine. Bone. So you know that can't just be a small guy. They gotta be a muscular guy that cut his doggone throat. But see, you got to take it a little bit further because, like I said, it gets deep. Because see, the ancient Egyptians was known, had for a long time, it was known that they was poisoning each other, so they could take over their entire kingdom. Remember I mentioned them gypsies over there in Morocco, what became Morocco, the Arabs. You know, I was telling a few people, you even see it in that Keanu Reeves movie. What do you call that? It'll come back to me. I had a lot of stuff rattling around up here. But they call it the hashash. I talked to a couple of Arabs about it. He's like, the hashash. Oh, they smile. Oh man, that stuff don't exist no more. Oh, it don't? Really? When you study up on the Hashashin was a secret society of hitmen. That's exactly what they were. Matter of fact, I'm about to look it up. There's a secret society of hitmen. Guess what the gypsies main thing used to do? People used to watch it all the time. Poison. The Hashashin was the hitmen, the secret organization of hitmen for His Majesty over in the Middle East. Over in Arabia. They were ruled by the kings and princes of Arabia, mainly the king. John Wick. That was the name. That's the name of that movie. John Wick. Now, when you Google Hashashin, John Wick can show up, but at the same time, you don't find hardly too much information on the Hashashin. Their main weapon of choice was poison. To this day, remember when 9/11 happened? They didn't just bomb stuff. They sent anthrax around to everybody. It's trying to poison people. Mm-hmm. Main tool is poison. Now, now that people remember that about the ancient Egyptians used to poison each other because they wanted rule. Remember pirates? The kings in Europe, they all developed what is called food testers. Because remember the kings in Europe was dying, turning black in the face and all the other stuff, you know what I'm saying, because of poison. They started watching them gypsies, and that's where all that stuff that they talking about, all this crystal ball and all this telling your future and everything. That's part of it. Belly dancers. How else could you get close to the royal houses to be able to poison them like that? Laying with the kings and queens. You know, they didn't learn from ancient Egypt. But then they had to, when they figured it out, they installed what is called food tests. People who eat off the food and give it to the king, you know what I'm saying, after it's proven that there's no poison in it, but then you had people who still failed because they start breaking up the poison into several parts. And so that way drink, eat your food, drink your drink, and don't forget your dessert. When it all mixed together in your stomach, later on, or probably a couple of days later, you drop. So yeah, and see that's what happened. But let's go back to ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt got conquered, and the ones that was left there, they was enslaved right there in their own land. But at the same time, a lot of them was taken out of Egypt. Here's where World Book comes in at, because World Book tells you what the anthropologists didn't tell you. The Arabs, even though there was slavery in Africa, the first African slaves were not taken out of Africa by Africans. They was taken out of Africa by not by Europeans, but by Arabians. They still over there to this day, still taking slaves out of Africa. They even got the Africans still stealing their own people and selling them into slavery, where they castrating the men and cutting the digging balls off. Only a small percentage of the men last. The women they raping. Got them. And when you first had the slaves coming up out of Africa, the first ones to get the slaves was royalty, the king's right. It was an harem. And the king didn't just take on any old body. He took the queens and the princesses. And all the rest went to everybody else. And then therefore, when you say that you got ancestors in what you call it, was really telling you is that you got family over there People with your heritage, your DNA is over there living. Because they went through a slavery a lot longer back than that other 400-year transatlantic slave trade. It goes hundreds, if not over 1,000 years back. So when they then once they what you call it, they'll see the kings of Arabia was intermingling with the kings of Europe, France, Italy, Great Britain, England. They went over there to see many times, and you know how the Arabs are. They love orgies, and so therefore they have an orgy or pass on some of their female slaves that they have with them, and cement ties with the king. Here, you can have that's a gift. You know how they are. That's a gift. Take them. You love them, you got them. You know what I'm saying? Long as we can deal with each other. Like I said, the Hashashin were the most feared assassins in the world. They were more feared even above the ninja of the Japanese and the shoguns that they used to send to hunt down the ninjas. So you know the shoguns were some bad people. They knew what they knew, you know what I'm saying? They had to, because they had to hunt down assassins. And the assassins was bad too. But they've all feared the Hashashin. And then you got over there in the Middle East, over in United Kingdom, the first people to get the slaves was the royal families. France, England, Great Britain. Remember, all of them used to fight each other too for rulership. The Danish, the Danes. Napoleon had, I think Napoleon's ruled all of that too. He ran France. His brother, he made his brother a king over somewhere, and I think he made another one of his brothers a king over in the Danish territory, somewhere around there. They thought that Napoleon's line died out. What they didn't take into account was the slaves he was fucking. That's not considered mixing. That's forced sexual gratification. They didn't have no choice. Give it up. They didn't count the children he sired with the slaves. They only counted the children he sired with his wife. Same as with his brothers. One of his brothers used to live right here in America. Napoleon Hill's brother used to live right here in America during the slave trade with his wife. Then Napoleon pulled him up out of America and put him over in, I think, with amongst the days, and made him a king over there. They only talked about the children that he sired with his wife. His brother sired with his wife. They didn't talk about the slaves he was screwing and sired children there. You see, I had to ask, if the slave trade went from Africa to the Americas, and from the Americas to the UK, and then from the UK to Africa, and then from Africa to Americas, and Americas to the UK, if that's the way it went, that triangle, how did it go in reverse? And I was born and reared here in the United States, but I got Great Britain blood. I know back in the day when they chased the Great Britons up out of here, before the slave trade started. Then I watched CRI genetics showed me that I had ancestors, and some of it was Northwestern European. That doesn't mean just because I had those ancestors that was European descent. That means it came from Africa to the Americas to the UK, then back to Africa again. That doesn't necessarily not necessarily mean that. Because like I said, remember they cemented the ties and they went up there and gave them to the royal house first, and then because during that time, the UK used to have what is called serfs. They were the poor people of the land. They originally was the ones that served that was forced servitude. Their own people. Then they got a hold of them Africans. They started bringing some more. So that's how the first African slave trade out of Africa started. Is they was getting them from the Arabians. But like I said, the Arabians was out about conquest too, and they wanted to rule. So therefore, they had the Hashashin, and they start the gypsies going through there, the Hashashin murdering the kings and all the other stuff. They got a few kings that was actually poisoned to death, and they figured out, and that's where they severed the lives with the Arabians, the Middle East, and they started battling with each other. Then you got the Mongols and all the other stuff that came out, and they ruled the seas and all of that stuff. You know, Alexander the Great, all of them, Vikings, pirates. Yeah, they went to war with each other, and then they, you know what I'm saying, to this day they still battling each other because the UK battles the what you they over there helping America bomb the Middle East. The Middle East was bombing they to this day bombing buses and stuff all in the UK. Prince Harry went and sat on the back of one of the buses. I dare one of you son guns. While I'm on it, got you know, so they had to go out and see what was going on. They sent the prince out there. If the prince is on there, you know that's got to be one of the safest buses you can be on. So basically, that's what happened. Like I said, to this day, Muslims, the Middle East, and Christians, the UK and the United States, are all fighting each other. They're fighting each other, and so therefore you got it right there. And see, the UK got rid of slavery before the United States. 100 years before the United States ended their slavery, the UK ended their slavery. But the UK has slavery going on a lot longer than people knew. And it started with them mixing with the Arabs and everything and having good times and whatever. And the Arabs brought the slaves over there. And once they started beefing with the Middle East, the slaves got cut off. We need those slaves. And guess what? Right on around to the east. Where did those slaves? They were Africans, so they came right around to not up there in the north where the Arabs was at. They went a roundabout way to the western part of Africa and started getting slaves out of there. And they knew they had this land over here in the United States and South America, and they had all of that. And so that's when they started doing all of that. But like I said, how did they go in reverse for them? Remember, I kept showing you it's too much royalty that I'm related to. And that's the reason why when I pointed out, I've been saying it for a minute now. And that's why I pointed out how this was open when I got it. I got it from the mail clerk just like this. Tape on it. It was tape the stuff in there to keep it in there. The first one disappeared. They had to send me a secondary. And the second one came on, you know what I'm saying, and now I got that one. That's the second one. The original one was the big one. Somebody sitting somewhere with one of my DNA maps they're not supposed to have because people was looking for information. What pull in next to me? So that's basically what I was dealing with. Now, when it comes to, it's starting to get dark out now. Now, when it comes to all of that, remember the Great Britain's got kicked out of America, but I'm here in America. So how did I end up having British blood? How did it go in reverse? The Britons was not welcome here at first in the United States. And if you go back in my it shows that during around the beginning of the slave trade, there was northwestern people showing up in my family. The British wasn't allowed over. The English didn't even like the British. That's who helped us defeat the British before they joined together and formed the United Kingdom, which they just had Brexit and broke up. Let's do it that way. I don't need nobody looking me in the mouth while I'm talking to you. So yeah, that's basically what I had to deal with. People wondering how is it possible? I just told you how it's possible. They had they had slaves over there too. There's black people all throughout the UK. They're former descendants of the slavery that was in the UK that didn't come through the transatlantic slave trade. They came from the Arabians. And the Arabians didn't just bring them over across China to bring them to the to the UK. They took them into India. They took them into Japan. They sold them wherever they could sell them. Remember, I got Punjabi. I told, but prior, you know what I'm saying? I said right around just before the transatlantic slave trade started, I had a Japanese guy show up in my direct ancestry, my Y DNA. How is that possible? Well, now you know. You see, when Egypt ruled the earth, they ruled the earth longer than anybody else on the face of this earth. I don't care who ruled it before them. It wasn't long before the Egyptian rule started that their rulership ceased. They didn't rule that long. The ancient Egyptian had ruled over 14,000 years, and rightfully you can still say it's still ruling to this day because a lot of the secret society information that you have in all of these secret societies worldwide is all ancient Egyptian knowledge, and it's widely known. That's one of the biggest secrets. It's the secret, the open secret. It's all ancient Egyptian knowledge. All of it. From the obelisk in the Washington. They probably got them in Washington that originated in ancient Egypt. They said the what do you call that? The ancient Egyptians origin. They said that the DNA for the ancient Egyptians originated out of Europe. But look, let me mention this. If it originated out of European, they was European. If you develop something, you gonna develop and build it at home first, and then you could gonna perfect it and build a bunch of them first. Then you're gonna go elsewhere. None of the buildings that they built all throughout Europe matched anything like a pyramid. They were castles. Even the houses of today resemble castles, not pyramids. You find pyramids in Mexico and South America, but they're not nowhere near as numerous as that in Egypt. Egypt ruled them places and went down there and built them daggone temples, built them pyramids in both South America and also Mexico. Those were the ancient Egyptians that did that. That's the reason why you find when you go look at some of the Aztecs, the Incas, and the Mayans, their garbs, the gold chains around their necks, and all the gold fashioned together, and everything. Even the clothing that they wore resembled that of the ancient Egyptians. Can't none of them argue it. So that's the reason why I say when ancient Egypt ruled the earth. I'm an ancient Egyptian. Though it shows that I originated down there, but I went up into the northern part of Africa. Because a lot of people who take these DNA tests, they don't have North African DNA in them. They got a southern, they got sub-Saharan and South Africa. I got South Africa, sub-Saharan, but how the heck I get North Africa? And they said the slaves mainly came from the west, on the transatlantic slave trade, mainly came from the western part of Africa. And it was a rare thing that it came off the eastern coast. How did I get North African in me? They can't explain that. They can't explain it without accepting the slave trade that came out of Egypt up into the Middle East and over into the UK. So part of me didn't just go through the transatlantic slave trade. Part of me went up through Arabia because I got a few places all throughout Arabia and Chaldee where my DNA shows up too. 9 times out of 10, yes, I do have a little Arab in me. But remember, they had black slaves. But before that, Egyptians was enslaving a lot, just about everybody. But they, to this day, I just watched a video where they so-called debunked the what do you call that? The curses that was in the Bible. They debunked those curses and attributed to a volcanic eruption. That's where the curses came from. Wow, that's amazing. You gotta watch these videos and see what type of proof they found. Ash from that mountain that was thousands of years old, that date way back then to when they claim the curses started in the first place. The frogs, the firstborns, all of that stuff. They debunked everything. Gave all the They gave scientific explanation, which means they had actual proof of what really happened. This video is getting a little bit longer than it's supposed to be. I'm getting ready to cut it off and lay down and enjoy the rest of my night because I gotta get back to work tomorrow. I enjoyed this time off and everything. Hated it, you know what I'm saying? 'Cause I'd rather be off driving to make some money, but instead I had to go through this. And then I'm gonna have to figure out how to put these videos together to make one big video. And then it's certain things I want to do with the video, but trying to have somebody do certain things with the video, they just don't do the things that I want done with the video. They just don't. But yeah, that's the reason why I know I have another DNA test that I need to take. I already got two companies that told me everything I need to know. So it can't be refuted by this third company. It can't be refuted. They could try, but it crops up too many times. Too many times. I'm gonna end it with this. I look like I look like the Sphinx and several other paintings or pictures of the ancient pharaohs. But I'm told I'm not direct descendant. Well, some people will argue with me about it because they say it's just a haplogroup. Haplogroup means anybody. Yeah, but it's the Y DNA. But at the same time, I understand because Y DNA means direct lineage. But at the same time, you got all these others, and I'm doggone sure not descendant of Nelson Mandela. That means we got common ancestry. I'm in the same haplogroup as Ramesses the Third. Not just they got a lot of DNA from a lot of the mummies around down through there that were not royal, but they pointed me to Ramesses the Third, not the all the rest of the what you call it. That means somewhere along the lines, our DNA crossed. If I'm not direct descendant, but I am of his family, some shape, somehow. They're saying that the 20th dynasty, where Ramesses was part of, came from Eastern Africa. They came up there and took over after the first 19 dynasties somehow just up and just left and disappeared. Now, how do you explain me looking similar to the Sphinx, which came long before the Ramesses the third was even thought a twinkle in his mother and father's eye? How is that possible? Like I said, he had a lot of wives, he had a lot of concubines, he had a lot of kids, a lot of kids. When they was conquered, so a lot of them fled south. There it was, hundreds of years later, a few generations later, the transatlantic slave trade started. Did those tribes sell their own people? Were they really selling their own people? Or are they looking at certain people that came from the north and was living in lands that used to be theirs, but they was afraid of them. But they heard about them getting beat up there, but they remember how they was being done themselves by the ancient Egyptians. And so when it came time to actually take revenge, did they sell their own people? Were they selling their own people? Or were they selling the people that was took, tied up, and caught, and entrapped, and ensnared, and taken into captivity that didn't originally belong in those lands? And they sold them to get them out of there so they could take over the lands. And then you had the so-called expansions, the bad two bad expansions, this. The lawyer even tell you we came from ancient Egypt. They tell you that. Then you got the people up in the Sudan. They don't even know that. I looked at this one woman on YouTube. She did her DNA test. I'm looking at her because I had never seen a woman like her. And I watched her. Oh my God, it's like the picture, the hieroglyph came off the wall and spoke through her. She looked just like the hieroglyphs. I think she moved somewhere here around in America somewhere. But she originated over there in Sudan. She's a Sudanese. And that's what made me realize the Sudanese bloodline, their DNA hasn't been collected that much. So therefore it hasn't been shown that they are the true ancient Egyptians. Just like the lawyer said too. And a few others. Me included. I wasn't a Muslim. I didn't come over here a Muslim. I was an ancient Egyptian. Part of me went through the transatlantic slave, but another part of me was enslaved a lot earlier than that and went up through the Europe, India, and all the other stuff. But I had a lot of mixture. I got family in just about every continent, and it shows. Where it's talking about it in red, another DNA test showed you, yes, those are your kin, and there's not a small percentage. It's you. All right, so that lets me know, makes me really question: am I royal?